Parshas Achri Meis Kedeshim is no mystery how it fits into the Parsha. Parshas Kedeshim is so chock full of mitzvahs that one does not have to stretch to find a mitzvah to speak about. And tonight we're going to speak about a mitzvah saseh deraisa that is both negea and applicable, and I think very interesting, and a mitzvah which we have never spoken about before. We're going to speak about the pasuk of and the mitzvah of mipnei seva takum v'hadarta pnei zaken. There's a mitzvah saseh deraisa, as the chinuch writes, lechabid hachachamim v'lakum mipneim. A mitzvah saseh deraisa, to show honor and to give kavod to chachamim v'lakum mipneihem. And specifically, the Torah tells us that one of the ways of showing homage and honor to a Talmud Chacham is to stand when the Talmud Chacham comes into our presence. And this is a mitzvah saseh deraisa that virtually all the meinei ha-mitzvahs count. And this is going to be the subject of our discussion tonight. The chinuch in mitzvah reish nun zayin, as we just said, writes, L'chabed hachachamim v'lakum mipneihem shenemar mipnei seva takum. The tirgem unklis min kodam the savar b'raisa takum. The chinuch over here brings the lashon of the targum unklis that explains the pasuk mipnei seva takum, which literally means you should stand up in front of an elderly person. Seva being connoting the word age, a person who's elderly, but yet the Targum Unkelis translates this to mean min kodam de savar by raisa takum. In front of a person who is savar by raisa, in front of a person who has learned, you should get up. Thus says that the Targum Unkelis goes ahead and says that the pasuk is not referring, and we'll elaborate on this in a minute, the pasuk is not referring merely to elderly people, but the pasuk is referring specifically to learned people, to Talmidei Chachamim. This pasuk, B'nei Seva Takum, means in front of a person who is learned in Torah, you're supposed to stand up and show honor. The Rambam's lashon in Perek Zayin Milchas Talmud Torah, Kol Talmud Chacham mitzvah lahadroi. There was a mitzvah saseh deraisa to show honor and kavod to a Talmud Chacham, va'af al pi she'enai rabbi. Even though this Talmud Chacham is not your Rebbe, you don't have to have learned anything from this Talmud Chacham. Nevertheless, there is a mitzvah to go ahead and to be mechabed him by virtue of the fact that he is a Talmud Chacham and a learned person. Shenemar mipnei seva takum v'hadarta pnei zaken. So the Rambam over here again adds zaken zeh shekana chachma. That the word zaken over here doesn't mean an older person, but means zeh shekana chachma, a person who is a Talmud Chacham. However, there is also a mitzvah to be mechabed elderly people. This, in fact, is a machlokes in Masechta Kiddushin. The Gemara in Masechta Kiddushin goes ahead and says on Amud Beis Masechta Kiddushin, Mipnei Seva Takum, our pasuk, what does it mean you should stand up in the presence of an elderly person? Yochol afilu zakein ashmoi. So the Tanakama says, I would think that Seva means that you have to get up in the presence of a Zakein Ashmai. Zakein Ashmai means an elderly person who is just a plain Am Haaretz, an ignoramus. Talmud Loimar Zakein. Since the pasuk says "Mipnei seva takum v'hadarta pnei zakein," the word zakein goes ahead and defines the entire pasuk. That we're not merely speaking about a person who's up there in years, but zakein zeh shekana chachma ve'ein zakein el chacham shenemar esval yishiv imish miziknei Yisrael. So the Tanakama says that this pasuk is only referring to Talmidei Chachamim. In spite of the fact that the pasuk uses seva, which means an elderly person, it doesn't mean that. It does not mean an old person you have to honor. That's not true. You have to honor Talmidei Chachamim. Rav Yesi Haglili Omer, Ein Zakein El Misha Kana Chachma. Rabbi Yesi Haglili says the well-known drasha that the word zakein means not an older person, it means a wise person. The Gemara, which we're not going to go into, discusses what exactly is the difference between Rabbi Yesi Haglili and the Tanakama. Both seem to be saying that the whole mitzvah applies only to wise people. The Gemara talks about that. We're not going to get into that. Isi ben Yehuda Omer, comes another Tana, a third Tana named Isi ben Yehuda, and says, "They seva takum, afilu kol seva b'mashma." No, that the pasuk does not merely mean, as Rabbi Yesi Haglili and Tanakama would have you believe, that the pasuk is only referring to Talmidei Chachamim, but afilu kol seva b'mashma, which means that any type of older person, there is an obligation upon you to honor. That's what Isi ben Yehuda holds. Lahalacha l'maiser abaisai, we paskin like Isi ben Yehuda. We hold that the mitzvah of Mipnei Seva Takum V'Hadarta B'nei Zakein refers not only to Talmidei Chachamim, but it refers to elderly people as well. And now, knowing what we know about Isi ben Yehuda, let us go back now with Isi ben Yehuda's drasha, and let's go back and teach the pasuk. Mipnei Seva Takum, according to Isi ben Yehuda, means afilu kol seva b'mashma. The reisha of the pasuk, the first part of the pasuk, mibnei seva takum afilu kol seva b'mashma, is telling us there's a mitzvah to be mechabed elderly people. V'hadarta pnei zakein, but the end of the pasuk, what does that mean according to Isi ben Yehuda? You're mechuyet to be mechabed zakein, which means zeh shekana chachma. So, ironically, the first part of the pasuk tells us there's a mitzvah to stand up for an older person, mipnei seva takum, v'hadarta pnei zakein. The last part of the pasuk tells us there's a mitzvah to mechabed a zakein, zeh shekana chachma. That's how Isi ben Yehuda learns the pasuk. Okay, now Rabbi Isai, what is the definition of seva? Mipnei seva takum. You have to stand up in front of an elderly person. We learned that Mipnei seva takum. What is considered old? Is it retirement age? Is it 65? The golden 65? So how do we go ahead and get a definition of the word Mipnei seva takum, which is referring to an elderly person? Rabbi say, where would you turn to find the definition of the word seva? Zok Reb Herschel, a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. What steht in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos? Okay, good. You get partial credit. No, not then Shimalish. So Teretz is the Olam Hesed hasn't gotten there yet. It's not 5 weeks after Pesach. That's the Teretz. This is the end of the 5th parak of Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah says Ben Shivim L'Seiva. So therefore, Rabbi Isai, according to Isi ben Yehuda, when the pasuk says B'nei Seva Takum, and Isi ben Yehuda says that the first part of the pasuk is referring to Kol Seva B'Mashma, what is the chiyuv to stand up for an elderly person? A person has to be 70 years old or older. That is when we say you have to stand up for an older person, what does it mean, Ben Shivim? That's how Isi ben Yehuda learns the pasuk. However, Rabbi Sai, the Targum Onkelos, which we mentioned at the outset, learns this pasuk differently. Mipnei Seva Takum, the Targum Onkelos teaches, Mipnei Seva Takum, Min Kodam the Sovar by Raisa Takum. The reish of the pasuk, Mipnei Seva Takum, is referring to Min Kodam Man the Sovar by Raisa Seva. He's teaching up to mean Chacham. So the pasuk says Mipnei Seva Takum is referring to a Talmud Chacham. That's what the reish is speaking about. V'hadarta Pnei Zakein. How does the Targum Onkelos teach the latter part of the pasuk? V'hadarta Pnei Zakein. Zok the Targum v'tahader Ape Sabo. You have to honor an elderly person. That's what he teaches the pasuk. V'hadarta Pnei Zakein, referring to an elderly person. So that's different than Isi ben Yehuda. Isi ben Yehuda, note this well because Chapsan Afgemina. Isi ben Yehuda says Mipnei Seva Takum. That's referring to the elderly person. Seva is defined from the Mishnah Pirkei Avos as a ben Shivim. The Targum Onkelos says Mipnei Seva Takum is referring to a Talmud Chacham. V'hadarta Pnei Zakein is referring to a elderly person. Now, Rabbi Sai, we want to go ahead and touch up. How old is a person? When is a person called a Zakein? What's the answer of Herschel? Ben Shishim L'Sikna. That a person is called a Zakein when he is already 60 years old. That's state in the Mishnah. Ben Shishim L'Zikna, Ben Shivim L'Seva. Kum Techais Abaisai, a nafgemina lahalacha between the way the Targum Onkelos teaches the pasuk and the way Isi ben Yehuda teaches the pasuk. According to the Targum Onkelos, you have to stand up for anybody who's 60 and above. According to the Isi ben Yehuda, which is the way the Talmud Bavli in fact interprets the pasuk, the mitzvah of standing up for an elderly person only begins at age 70. That's not the way the taicha, the halachic working definition of what's of zikna. The Mishnah tells us what the working definition of the word zikna is. In Shulchan Aruch, in Tur Yerideisim and Reish Mem Daled, the Tur brings down in the name of his father the Rosh, V'chein Mipnei Seva Shehi Muflik Bezikna Dahainu Ben Shivim Mitzvah Loko Mipanav. In Shulchan Aruch it is brought down that the mitzvah of standing up, which means when an elderly person comes into your Dalet Amis, there is a mitzvah asay the eraisa to get up for an elderly person. Elderly defined by Isi ben Yehuda and the Talmud Bavli, and this is how the Shulchan Aruch paskins, any person 70 and above. Mitzvah to stand up in front of him. The Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Reish Nun Zayin brings down the Minchas Chinuch writes as follows: Rayisi b'sidr shel ha'eloki ha'arizal. I saw in the siddur of the Eloki, that means the Holy One, the Godly One, the Arizal, the Ari HaKadosh. Mavur sham bishmai de mipnei ben shishim srichim lamoid. The Arizal says that the mitzvah of Mipnei Seva Takum V'Hadarta Pnei Zakein is referring to a Ben Shishim. Zok der Minchas Chinuch, obviously, that the Arizal, for some reason, is machmir like the Targum Onkelos, that the mitzvah of honoring an elderly person begins at Ben Shishim, in spite of the fact that the Talmud Bavli and the Shulchan Aruch don't hold like that. Zok der Minchas Chinuch, ויש להחמיר כהתרגום לעמוד מפני בן שישים ובפרט שכן דס האריזל עשה תוך דמינכס חינוך. Come to Chais Rabbi Sai that in a mitzvah asay deraisa it could either be machmir. Any person who's 60 years old and above, when he comes into your Dalet Amis, you should get up for him, even if he is not a Talmud Chacham. Just the fact that he is an elderly person, there's a mitzvah to get up from him. That's the din. Certainly, according to everyone, when someone is 70 years old, you have to get up. You don't want to be machmer like the Arizal and the Targum Unklis, fine. But when a person's 70 years old, get up when the person gets into your Dalet Amis.
If you don't know the age,
well, people maybe should start wearing their their senior citizen card. We'll get to that. Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Now, I just want to point out that the Minchas Chinuch is bothered by a slight discrepancy in the Chinuch. Because the Chinuch begins this mitzvah Kavod Chachamim, Lechabed HaChachamim. The Chinuch defines this mitzvah as being a mitzvah to be Mechabed Talmidei Chachamim. In midstream, the Chinuch goes ahead and supposedly changes course and says there's also a mitzvah to be Mechabed Zekanim. He brings the sheet of Isi ben Yehuda and says that the mitzvah is to be Mechabed also elderly people. So the Minchas Chinuch says, isn't this not a discrepancy? He defines. The way he defines the mitzvah is a mitzvah of not Lechabed Chachamim V'Skenim, but the mitzvah is Lechabed Chachamim. If the mitzvah is only to be Mechabed Chachamim, how come the Chinuch goes ahead and writes that we hold like Isi ben Yehuda, that even if a person is an Amoretz, a boor, as the Meiri writes, nevertheless there's a mitzvah to be Mechabed him. So the Shiari HaMincha says that there is no discrepancy. This mitzvah is a mitzvah to be Mechabed Chachamim. Because as the Chinuch himself writes, Lefi she'ikar hayos ha'adam nivra ba'olam hu bnei ha'chachma k'dei sheyakir ba'iroi. A person who's a wise person, who's a Talmid Chacham, has a different understanding of the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's what it's all about, to have an understanding and a closeness to God. But what the Chinuch is telling us is that there are two ways for a person to get an understanding of God. One is through learning Torah, becoming a Talmid Chacham, but there is also an avenue which a person can reach a understanding of the Rebbeinu Shalom in spite of the fact that he hasn't learned, and that is by life's experience. Age. The fact that a person has been around a number of years, a lot of years, that in itself gives a person a certain amount of wisdom, and as such he has a different and a deeper understanding of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that alone makes him a chacham. To the extent that the Gemara says that there were Amoraim that used to stand up in front of old Goyim. Why? Because the Gemara says, Kama harapataki adu alayu. Because a person who's been through life gets a certain maturity, a certain wisdom, and that's the pshat in this mitzvah. So therefore there's no discrepancy. This is a mitzvah to be Mechabed Chachamim. Except there's two types of Chachamim. You can have somebody who's 20 years old that's been through Shas, and that makes him a Chacham, and that gives him an understanding that a 40-year-old doesn't have, and therefore there's a mitzvah to stand up for such a person in spite of his young age. And there's also a mitzvah to stand up for a 70-year-old who may not have learned by virtue of the fact that he's 70 years old. That gives him a certain amount of knowledge, and we have to show deference and honor to that knowledge gained through years. Now, what does it mean when we say you have to stand up for a Talmid Chacham and a zokin, be it 60 or 70. So the Torah writes that the mitzvah is to stand up maloi kaimasai, which means when a Talmud Chacham enters your Daled Amis, or for that matter, when an older person enters your Daled Amis, you have to get up. Get up means to stand erectly. Not like it is the minig of the Welt, that you go and you give a little, I don't know exactly what to call it. I mean, I'm not sitting down, but everyone knows what I mean. It was interesting. I was once at a chasana. And there was a non-Jew at the chasana. So this was the first time it was at a Jewish wedding. It was got a yeshivish wedding. So this guy sitting there in the crowd, and they say, Harav, so and so is mechubed mitzidei kedushin. So everybody just gets up a little. So this guy, he sees everybody gets it. He stands up. Everybody else is sitting down. So he sits down. They call up the next person. Everybody, ups again. The ganze, and this guy, he says, "Listen, I understand you sit up, you stand up. I understand you sit down. But what's the pshat in this? This is nishta here, this is nishta here. He couldn't understand it. Either you get up or you sit down. But what's this? So this. Whatever we want to call it, it's called in halacha hidur. You show a shtickle kovid, that's not sufficient, Rabbi say. When a 70-year-old or a Talmud Chacham comes into your Daled Amis, you're mechuyev to stand up. That's what steht in Shulchan Aruch. Because of this, Rav Avad Yosef in his Yabia Omer Chele Gimel says, "Va'anitama mashariisi lahameiri." If that's the case, I don't understand a meiri in kedushin. Shekosav. Now this is the lashon of the meiri. Zokin muflug, a 70-year-old. She'eino chacham, ein chayovin lamoid mipanav b'maloi kaima. The Meiri says that there is a difference between the Talmud Chacham and the Zokin. Das heißt that even though we just got finished saying that the mitzvah includes lahalacha to stand up before a Talmud Chacham and to stand up before an elderly person, nevertheless, Zok the Meiri, that there is a chilik. For a Talmud Chacham, you have to stand up. But for a older person, all you have to do, Zok the Meiri, is El Mitzvah Lahadroi Shenemar Mipnei Seva Takum V'Hadarta, which means he goes ahead and he's mekasher to when it says Mipnei Seva Takum, it says V'Hadarta. Das heißt, the Kima is only V'Hadarta. To which Rav Avad Yosef comments, says, I don't see how you learn the pasuk like that. Was steht in pasuk? Mipnei Seva Takum. Das heißt, we touched up that a Kodisi ben Yehuda, the reish of the pasuk is referring to Seva, means Seva Mamish, an elderly pasuk. Was steht in pasuk? Mipnei Seva Takum. You have to get up in front of an elderly person. So this halfway business, he says he doesn't understand the Meiri. Then he writes, Ba'arach HaShulchan, I saw in the Aruch HaShulchan, Shekosav, the Aruch HaShulchan writes, Af al Pishin Isbayer Shetzrichin Lokum Kima Gemura B'nei Zokin El Talmud Chacham. Even though it's clear in the halacha that you must stand up erectly for both a Talmud Chacham and an elderly person, Kim Duma She'ein HaMinik Kain. This is not the minik. So lifnei Talmud Chacham kami malai kaima, v'lifnei zakin muflog ein kami rak eisin lehider, azay zok Aruch HaShulchan. The Welt wird sich nicht azay. This is not how people act. People get up in front of a Talmud Chacham malai kaima, but they get up in front of an elderly person only a little. He says that's the way the Welt is naig. Rav Avadia Yosef says, I don't know where they're coming from. And Shulchan Aruch doesn't say that. The Pasuk doesn't say that. But so therefore, if a person wants to do things right, he should stand up erect, both for a Talmud Chacham and for an elderly person. On the other end of the spectrum, he goes ahead and writes, V'hinei ra'oi ra'isi l'ktsas anoshim she'einen ayin libnei chacham ela eisen l'ktsas hider. I see also that people for Talmidei Chachamim do not get up, Mulay Kaima. Again, they only do this little hidur. V'yilu b'nei zakenim bashonim aimdim Mulay Kamason. And for elderly people, they stand up fully. And for Talmidei Chachamim, they only stand up a little. So he says, Teretz says they're learning Mikra Lefi Pshutai. Mipnei Seva Takum. For an elderly person, you have to stand up. For Hadarta, Pnei Zakin, which is referred to the Talmidei Chacham, you only have to do Kima Miyabai, a Hider Miyabai. He says, I don't understand that either. Apparently, Rabbi Sai, the Welt is Saimech on a Shach. The Shach writes in Yeridea, V'achshav nohagu shaloi lakum ela mipnei Roshei Yeshiva va'av bezdin. The Shach writes, this is already, the Shach is in the 1600s, says that the minig is that you only stand up for a Rosh Yeshiva or Av Bezdin. What's the pshat in that? The Efshar zok the Shach shaloi lachleik bein chacham l'chacham. They did this because they didn't want to embarrass anybody. Das heißt, guy comes in, she says, oh, he's a great Talmud Chacham, stand up for him. Next guy comes in, no. Yeah. How much does he know? So he knows a couple of Masechtas. No, so then it's embarrassing. So what did people do? The smart thing would have been stand up for everybody. But people were nayeg not to stand up for anybody, except Rashi Yeshiva of Av Bezdin, where there is no question about them that they are Talmidei Chachamim Muflagim. But again, Rabbi Sai, the din is that one should stand up for a Talmud Chacham, for an elderly person, and he should stand up fully erect. He's only going on that.
Sometimes these people walk very quickly, and you get halfway up, and you're out of dollars.
And you're very slow. The next subject, which is really a fascinating subject, the last subject which we're going to discuss tonight, is the following din. The Gemara is mechadish that not only is there an obligation to stand up and to honor a Talmud Chacham, but one is obligated to stand up for the wife of a Talmud Chacham. Eishes chaver gechaver. The wife of a Talmud Chacham has a din of a Talmud Chacham, and you have to stand up for her. This is based on a Gemara Masechta Shvuos on Daf Lamed Amud Beis, where the Gemara says, "Devisu de Rav Huna hava ladina kame de Rav Nachman." The wife of Rav Huna had a din Torah in front of Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was the dayan, he was the judge, and Rav Huna's wife came in for some kind of din Torah with another person. So the halacha is that when a Talmud Chacham comes in the room, you have to get up. When she was the wife of a Talmud Chacham, he also had to get up. So he was in a dilemma. Zot the Gemara, heichi navid. What should I do? I eku mikama. If when she comes into court, I stand in her presence, mistatman tanosei de baldina. It's going to have a chilling effect on the other litigant. which means this guy, he has a din Torah. He walks into court, nothing. The racist Rav Huna walks into court, the judge gets up for her. He says, in America, all rise, the Honorable so-and-so presiding. Here, the litigant walked into court and the judge got up. So what does that do to the guy? I mean, it's... So Narvos, Rav Nachman says, I won't stand for her. That the wife of a Talmud Chacham is exactly like a Talmud Chacham, and you cannot not stand. You must stand. So what am I going to do? So the Gemara says he was a funny eitzah what he did. Omalei l'shamei. So he told his shamish to go ahead, say ve'efrach alai baravza, go and fly a geese over my head, and when the goose will fly over my head, I'll jump up for the goose, and I'm really jumping up for Rav Huna's wife, and Menela, the litigant won't understand why I'm standing up. This was he did just so that he'd be able to show covet. But the bottom line from this Gemara is that Eishes Chaver Harehu Kechaver. Now, Taisvis in Masechta Shvuos has a kasha, and Taisus has two terutzim on the kasha. Taisus in his second teretz says the following chiddush: that the entire halacha that Eishes Chaver Harehu Kechaver, that a wife of a Talmud Chacham gets the same respect as a Talmud Chacham, that's dafka b'chaye ba'ala, while her husband is still alive. But after her husband is dead, then there's no obligation whatsoever to show honor to an Eishes Talmud Chacham. Taisus in his first teretz doesn't say that teretz. And therefore Taisus in his first teretz seems to be holding that it doesn't make a difference whether the husband's alive or dead, nevertheless the chiyuv exists. In fact, the Chuvas Maramin says that the din of being mechabed a wife of a Talmud Chacham applies even after the death of the husband, as long as she does not remarry to an Am Haaretz. So Zokter Minchas Chinuch. What's the pshat? Why is it that Taisvis says that the whole halacha of honoring the wife of a Talmud Chacham only applies in the life of the Talmud Chacham? Zokter minchas chinuch ashenish tikul lomdis, similar to something which we said earlier in the year. Zokter minchas chinuch, that the entire obligation to honor the wife of a Talmud Chacham is only because by honoring the wife of a Talmud Chacham, you are indeed honoring the Talmud Chacham himself. There is no intrinsic obligation to show honor to the wife of the Talmud Chacham. She's not the siba for the chi of kavod. It's the husband. But showing honor to her is in effect showing honor to the husband. We said such a svara Rabbi Sai by the halacha of Eishes Aviv. There's a chiyuv to go ahead and show honor to one's stepmother. But that's only while one's father is still alive. Once the father dies, then you don't have to give honor to the stepmother anymore. Why? Again, the same lumdus. Because there is no mitzvah to honor one's stepmother in her own right. It's only a way of showing honor to the father. Therefore, if the father is no longer alive, the chiyuv stops. Similarly, Zokter Minchas Chinuch, the entire mitzvah of showing honor to an Eishes Talmud Chacham is only to honor the Talmud Chacham. If the Talmud Chacham himself is no longer alive, there is no mitzvah to be mechabed the Eishes Talmud Chacham. Zokter Minchas Chinuch, a gewaltige chiddush, a chap. The Gemara says the Talmud Chacham shemachal al kvaydai machal. The Talmud Chacham has the ability to go ahead and to be meichel on his covet and say, don't get up for me. As opposed to, for instance, melech shemachal al kvaydai, ein kvaydai machal. A melech cannot go ahead and say, don't get up for me, don't show me the honor. What's the difference? So the Gemara in Kiddushin tells us, because by melech, the reason we have to honor the melech is the office of the melech. He's not a balabas to be meichel on that covet. But the Gemara in Kedushin says the reason you have to honor Talmid Chacham is for his Torah. V'Torasai dilehu. It's his Torah. He's the balabas. Uv'Sairasa yega yomim v'layla. It's his Torah. Sairasa yega yomim v'layla. I'm the balabas on my Torah. It's my Torah. If I want to be Michael, I can be Michael. Zocht der Minchas Chinuch. Can a Talmid Chacham say, don't stand up for me? Yes. But can an Eishes Talmid Chacham say, don't stand up for me? No. Because since she's not the balabas over the Torah, it's not her Torah, she's only a medium, an avenue to which to be honor him. She's not the balabas to say, don't be machabed me. So Zokta Minchas Chinuch, it's an interesting thing. The chiyuv to honor her is only to show deference to her husband. But as such, her husband can be Michael, she can't be Michael. Azay Zokta Minchas Chinuch, an interessante chiddush. Oh, we'll get to her in a minute. What? We'll see soon. So the Sefer Hasidim in Siman Tov Kuf Ayin Ches writes, Mibnei Seva Tokum V'Hadarta Pnei Zakein V'Afilu Zakena. Zok the Sefer Hasidim that there is a mitzvah to be mechabed an older woman. Afilu Zakena. Why? Because Rabbi Say, as we said, the chiyuv to honor an older person is not a function because the person has learned. The person can be an amoretz, but the mere fact that a person has lived a long life, that in itself gives a person a deeper understanding, and therefore the halacha is an older woman who comes into the room, you're mechuyev min hatera to stand up for the older woman. Mibnei Seva Takum applies to men and women equally, because the same years and life's experiences that gave the older man this stature, who had been an older woman. So Rav Reuven Margolius, on his Hagos to the Sefer Hasidim, brings down a sefer called Mishnas Chachamim, declares a shaila. What about a woman which is not an older woman, below 60, below 70 as we said, but she is a chachama. She's a wise woman. She is, I don't know exactly what the terminology, a Talmida Chachama. Is there a chiyuv to be mechabed an isha chachama? For what? For the Torah that she's learned. What? Dvora. Good example. Dvora, isha neviya, eshes lapidos. Hishafetes as Yisrael. She was a chachama. She used to paskin chaylas. Is there a chiyuv to get up for a woman who is a melumedes, a mechuneches? So the Minchas Chinuch in Mitzvah Reish Nun Zayin writes, Zok der azay, Zok der, Zok the Minchas Chinuch azay, Bavadai ein tzarech lamoid mipnei isha. V'chol hadinim shetzarech chacham b'varei leishayach af shehi chachama. Zok the Minchas Chinuch, I'm not disputing the fact that she can be a chachama. I'm not saying that she can't be a melumedes. I'm not saying that she can't know. But listen to the word. The einay nikra chacham rak im metzuva lilmoid v'liknois chachma. There's the Minchas Chinuch. This mitzvah to be mechabed talmidei chachamim is not simply because they've acquired the knowledge, but it's because they have a mitzvah to learn. Because they have a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. It's the mitzvah to learn and to acquire the knowledge. Once one has fulfilled that mitzvah, that's the mechayev of the kavod. So can a woman who knows twice as much as a man, who's takar grace and mulumedes, there's no disputing that she's a mechuneches, a mulumedes, house thing. But she's not mitzvah. No matter how you slice the pie, women are potter from Talmud Torah. Period. Good, she's in Eina Mitzvah, right? But that's not what's the kevei. As a statement minchas chinuch. So on the bottom of the Sefer Hasidim, he says, Ayin b'tshuvas beis Yehuda. Chelik Yeridea Siman Chavches. The Beis Yehuda was named Rabbi Yehuda ben Yitzchak Ayish. He was a Svardish Rav. He was a Dayan in Algiers. And he subsequently went to Italy and then made it to Yerushalayim. He was nifter in 1760, but he has a tshuva that addresses this very question. Is there a chiyuv to be mechabeid and isha chachama amulumedes? The first question that he addresses is, you have to stand up for an older woman. Any woman who's 70 years old and above, you're mechuyev to get up, like we already said. Sagt weiter. V'keven dehi chayeves lechaber acherim, gam ho'acherim chayovin bichvoida, im hi zekena. Other people are mechuyev to honor her if she's older. Oy chachama, or if she's a mulumedes, afilu yolada, af al gav de ptura. Which means, precisely fakert from the minchas chinuch. Even though she's potter from learning, but the mere fact that she is a mulumedes, she is a chachama, that in and of itself is a chiyuv to be mechaber her. So this question that the Mishnah's Chachamim declares as a shaila is in fact the machlokes between the minchas chinuch and the Shuvas Beis Yehuda. The Minchas Chinuch holds that the Chiv of Mechaber Chachamim is not simply because of the knowledge they've accumulated, but is directly related to the fact they have a mitzvah to know that. That's what's the Mechayiv of the honor. Mashain King, the Beis Yehuda says that the Chiv is to be Mechaber people for their knowledge. And in spite of the fact that they're not mitzvah to attain that knowledge, that doesn't take away from the fact that you're mechuyev to mechaber him. So hayetzimid for in our Rabbi tonight, there's a mitzvah say deraisa to be mechabeid talmidei chachamim, and to get up when they enter your daled amis. And as we mentioned, there's a mitzvah to mekabed zechenim as well. Lahalocha l'maisa, a person is considered a zokein when he reaches 70 years old. According to the shita of the Arizal, even when a person reaches 60 years old, there's a chiyuv to mechabed him. The chiyuv of kavod is to stand erectly and not merely to get out of one's seat slightly. There's a mitzvah to mechabed an eishes talmid chacham. There's a mitzvah to mechabed an elderly woman. The only question which we remain with is a machlokes on a woman who's not an elderly woman, but is a chachama in her own right. Are you mechuyev to mechabed her by virtue of the fact that she is a chachama, a mulumedes, and a mechuneches? That is a machlokes between the minchas chinuch and the tshuvas beis Yehuda. Pasuk says at the end of Parshas Achrei Mos, Umizarachol sitein lahavir lamelech v'lo sechalel Hashem Elokecha ani Hashem. This is an azhara for a form of avodah zarah that was a very, what should I say, a very tragic form of avodah zarah. The avodah zarah of Melech, the the Gemara tells us is that a person would go ahead and give his child to the Kohen, and the Kohen would pass the child through fire. And in some forms of this Avodah Zarah, the child, in fact, would be burnt. So the Isser of Avodah Zarah was literally that a person would have his child not burned at the stake, but burned and as form of the worship of Avodah Zarah. The pasuk says, "V'lo yisechalel l'shem Elokecha ani Hashem." So what the pasuk is telling us over here, that milvad the yetzem aveira, the intrinsic aveira of the Avodah Zarah of Melech, the person goes ahead and sacrifices his son through fire to Avodah Zarah. But milvad that, the pasuk says, "Lo yisechalel l'shem Elokecha ani Hashem." The Vaistais implied in this Aveira of Melech is an added Chil Hashem. So the Ramban speaks out, what's the Chil Hashem? What's the added desecration of the name of the Rebbeinu Shalom by the fact that a person worships Melech? Interesting Ramban. Hiskir HaKosuv Ki Havoras Hazera La Melech Hu Chil Hashem. The pasuk adds that Melech, besides being an Avodah Zarah, but it's an added Chil Hashem. Ki kasher yishma'u hagoyim shekibed es ha-Melech bezarai v'yakriv mibehem tasai la-Hashem hu Chil Hashem. Interesting Ramban. You know what the Chil Hashem is? Because what were you willing to go ahead and sacrifice to the Rebbeinu Shalom? A cow? An ox? A goat? But that's it. To the Rebbeinu Shalom, people only sacrifice their animals. But to Melech, to the Avodah Zarah, people sacrifice their own sons. That you were mechabed, and you gave honor to the Avodah Zarah more than you were willing to go ahead and to give honor to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's a Chil Hashem. Interesting Ramban. That's the inherent Chil Hashem associated with Melech, showing more kavod to this false deity than you're willing to show to the Rebbeinu Shalom. So David Kviyat in his Sefer Sukkos David makes the following ha'ara. Of course, nobody in this room is not in the same room, not in the same league, not in the same planet with the Isser of Melech. But this concept that a person can make a Chil Hashem by showing more homage and honor to some other area in life than the Rebbeinu Shalom, that sometimes is not so foreign to us. Some people, again, this is not this crowd, Baruch Hashem, but they're very medactic in their cars. I mean, maybe this island should be medactic a little more in their cars. But this island, Baruch Hashem, not medactic so much in the cars. But it's not unheard of that Frume Yidden, Unsere Yidden, Hamish Yidden, the car is mamish, it has to be spotless and new, and when you get a nick in the car, you scratch the car, a dent in the car, it's a a person's tefillin, a person nicks his tefillin, so do you right away run to the sefer and you say, the datim have to be square, the corners have to be square. Does the nick in the tefillin bother you more than a dent in the car? That's the mashal that he gives. The question is that when a person, besides the problems of being machshiv, of having priorities wrong, but there could be an added chil Hashem. If a person is more medaktik and more makbid on other areas of life, that's a chil Hashem. It's an interesting medrash I once saw. State in medrash that when the Oren Bris Hashem was captured, and it was by the Plishtim for an extended period of time. Finally, they got the Oren back. Right away was a magefa. After the Oren came back, there was a plague. So there's a medrash that says, why all of a sudden they got the Oren back? There should be now a magefa. So the medrash says there's a terrible kitrig on Klal Yisrael. Terrible taina on Klal Yisrael. What was the taina? So the medrash, if a person loses a tarnagoylis, if a person loses a chicken, he has a hen that lays eggs, and the hen is missing, and he's not getting his eggs. So he's bothered and he's worried and he runs around and he puts up signs, "Where's my hen?" And my Orain, Zok the Ribbono Shel Olam, is in Plishtim for all these months and nobody cares about my Orain. You care more about your hen than you care about my Orain. That's a terrible kitrug. It's a terrible chil Hashem. What bothers you? You're worried about your hen? You're not worried about my Orain. That's a terrible taina. When we worry about narishkeit and worry about lost hens, we don't worry that the Oren Bris Hashem stayed by the Goyim. That's a terrible chil Hashem. That's the chil Hashem of Melech. Unfortunately, Rabbi, we're all guilty to a lesser extent, more extent of this. A person's transmission goes up. It upsets him. A person's refrigerator breaks. You go away for a couple of days, you come back, your refrigerator's broke. Your house comes in, your house stinks and everything is lost and everything, the freezer's lost. Everybody's upset. Little things like this upset us. What's going on now in Eretz Yisrael? It's gefährlich. And every day, it's terrible. It's a gefährlich matzav. It's terrible. But does it bother us more or less than if our refrigerator breaks? Does it bother us more than a transmission? What bothers us? What makes us upset? What makes us sad? What makes us lose sleep at night? What's going on there now, what's going to be, and who knows what's going to happen. It's mamish, it's a pachad. It's a pachad neiro what's going to happen. So it's a matter of distance. It's not in front of us. There are terutzim. Never a mitzvah to be malamed kitrug on Klal Yisrael. But we have to bear this in mind. We have to bear in mind that we're going to be held accountable for what bothered us and what made us happy. What we worried about and what we didn't worry about. What we lost sleep over and what we didn't lose sleep over. As a taina on Klal Yisrael, you worried more about a hen than you worried about an Oren. And you think, how could there be such a people? They were worried more about their chickens than they were about the Orain. So that's a taina to us. Are we worried more about our refrigerators and our businesses and our cars and our transmissions and all the other narishkeiten that fill up our daily life than what's going on with Klal Yisrael? And to worry more about that, to care more about that, is in effect the taina of Olei Sechalu of Melech. Olei Sechalu Hashem Elokecha Ani Hashem. The Rebbeinu Shalom holds us accountable for our priorities, how we treated him and how we treated other things. Therefore, when we say, minimally, when we daven Sim Shalom, when we say Achinu Kol Beis Yisrael, when we say a kapitel Tilim, we should have in mind that it's a terrible situation. It's a terrible shasakana, and our only ve'ein lanu lihishayin elo al avinu shabashamayim.
This year was presented by Rabbi Frand Shlita.